So, how in the world did a tiny startup from Sweden manage to take on the entire music piracy underworld and actually win? This is the story of Spotify. And it's not just about how they changed the way we listen to music. It's about how they built a whole new empire of audio from the ground up.
If you were online back in the early 2000s, this question probably hits you with a wave of nostalgia. We're talking dial-up tones, sketchy file names, and that unbelievable feeling of getting pretty much any song you could ever want for free. It was total unregulated chaos.
And in that chaos, there was one clear loser: the music industry itself. I mean, they were literally watching their entire business model, selling CDs, selling digital downloads, just completely evaporate. They were in a total freefall, fighting a battle with old-school tactics that just weren't working.
To really get why Spotify was so revolutionary, you first have to understand the sheer scale of the problem it was designed to solve. And that problem was all thanks to a new and very illegal kind of technology.
The tech at the heart of all this was called peer-to-peer sharing, or P2P. Instead of going through some central company, people were just grabbing music files directly from each other's computers. For us music fans, it felt like magic, but for the artists and the labels, it was an absolute nightmare. They were completely cut out of the loop.
So what did the industry do? Well, they sued. They sued the companies, they even sued kids in their dorm rooms. But it was like playing whack-a-mole. As Spotify's founder, Daniel Ek, would later say, you can't legislate away piracy. You shut one service down, two more pop up. The problem wasn't going anywhere.
And this, right here, is where the whole story pivots. Because the industry's failure created a massive opening for a totally new way of thinking. What if, instead of fighting piracy, you could just build something better than piracy?
And here come our main characters. Daniel Ek, a young tech guy who'd actually grown up using these piracy services himself, and his partner, Martin Lorenzone. Ek wasn't just some coder. He was obsessed with music, and he saw a gigantic opportunity where everyone else just saw a five-alarm fire.
And this quote, this is the whole thing right here. This is the mission statement that changed music forever. It's so brilliant in its simplicity. Don't just try to compete with free. Beat it. Make something faster, easier, and more fun, and figure out a way to make sure the artists actually get paid.
So their plan was basically built on 4 key ideas. First, you got to convince the music labels to give you their entire catalogs, legally. Second, the user experience has to be flawless. Instant playback, no viruses, no weird low-quality files. Third, and this was the real game changer, you use a freemium model. You let people listen for free with ads. This was genius because it made piracy look like a hassle. Why bother downloading when you can just press play? And finally, the most important part, you build a system that funnels money back to the industry for every single listen.
Okay, so after they got the model working in Europe, they aimed for the biggest prize of all, the American market. This was going to be the make or break moment.
And it took a while. It was a full 5 years from the day they were founded until they could finally launch in the US. Getting those American record labels to sign on was a brutal uphill battle. But when they finally did in 2011, it was the start of something huge.
And they had a secret weapon, a partnership with, at the time, the most dominant force on the internet, Facebook. It was an absolute masterstroke. All of a sudden, hundreds of millions of people were seeing what their friends were listening to right in their newsfeed. It created this massive viral curiosity.
And the results were just explosive. I mean, look at this. In just about a year after launching in the US with that Facebook integration, their number of paying subscribers quadrupled from 1 million to 4 million. This was the moment Spotify went from being a cool European app to a true global giant.
But of course, with that kind of success, the big dogs, we're talking Apple, Google, start to notice. To stay on top, Spotify knew it had to become something more than just a music player.
So they made their next huge move. They decided they were going to own the entire world of audio, not just music. And the main weapon in that new fight? Podcasts.
And they didn't just dip a toe in the water, they dove in head first. They went on an absolute shopping spree, buying up amazing content companies like Gimlet and The Ringer, podcast creation tools like Anchor, and then they dropped a 9-figure bombshell by signing the Joe Rogan Experience to an exclusive deal.
And just like that, the whole platform transformed. What started as purely a music service is now this 3-headed beast of audio. Music is still core, but podcasts and now audiobooks are becoming just essential to Spotify's whole identity.
But you know, becoming the king doesn't come easy. When you're on top, you face a whole new set of challenges and a lot more criticism.
And this brings us to the biggest debate. a conflict where both sides kind of have a point. You have tons of artists who say, look, this fraction of a penny I get per stream, I can't live on this. But then Spotify comes back and says, hey, we give about 70% of our money back to the industry, and that's added up to billions of dollars. We saved you guys. It's a really complex debate right at the heart of the modern music business.
And all this is happening while the competition is just more intense than ever. You've got Apple Music, which is baked into every iPhone. You've got YouTube Music with its endless library of video. Spotify's advantage really comes down to its incredible discovery features, those playlists that just know you, and its massive head start in podcasts.
So while Spotify definitely won the war against piracy, now it's fighting on all these new fronts. It's fighting against other tech giants, and it's fighting against criticism of the very system it created. The story is nowhere near finished.
Which leaves us all with this one big, fascinating question. In a world with new challengers popping up and new tech like AI changing everything, how does the company that completely rewrote the rules of an industry make sure it doesn't get rewritten itself? The next chapter is happening right now.